Hello and welcome. My name is Leah Kopke, and this is my 3D modeling podcast, Ambient 3D Animations. We have been 3D modeling a library, and we've started going down the rabbit hole of Pyro because the wood-burning stove needed a fire in it. So we've gone over all of the Pyro emitter and fuel settings. For this, we've talked about how the Pyro output works and what the upres option does. Now we're going to go more in depth of the simulation scene settings. We're going to go through all those settings there so that you'll know how to create a fire that works best on your machine, and you'll be able to adjust it to fit whatever creative fire you are picturing in your mind. But I will go over this just a little bit and how I went about this, and you can reference this as an example. So in here you can see that I had set up these destructor objects around the top of the fireplace, and we'll actually go more in depth to how these works, but they stop the fire from going further than what I want it to, the fire simulation. It can also help speed up the scene a little bit. In the asset browser, I had searched for wood, and you can see that with your Cinema 4D Max on 1, you get some wood 3D models in here, and that's what I used as an emitter for the fire. So you can see I have these in here. I used a noise for the emitter tag so that there's a little bit of variation where the fire is along these logs. And that's what I used for the simulation. Right now I have the Pyro output turned off, so I'll turn that back on so that we can see some of that fire along the logs being previewed in our viewport. I had set the initial state for this simulation. We'll talk more about that, but that allows me to have the fire start at a full flame instead of us seeing it build up from like a little spark to a full-on fire, because I wanted to loop this, and I actually did loop this inside of After Effects after I rendered it out. So here at the beginning you can see that I actually overlaid the end of this, and I started the opacity at 100% and had it fade off to 0%. So I'm overlaying the end of this. It doesn't have to even be by a full second, just by a little bit. And then that way, when you press play, it looks like it loops pretty seamlessly. I had not adjusted the colors yet in here, but I wanted to show you this as an example so that you know how to loop your fire in post. So that's how I went about it. I really wanted to have these nice, fine, detailed flames, so that required me to adjust some of the settings here in the simulation scene. So we talked a little bit about the simulation scene. We're going to be covering this more in depth. We're going to talk about the tree settings. I wanted a large amount of detail, so I bumped this up to 32 voxels. We'll talk about what that means in another episode. I also adjusted the sub-step so that I could get more detail in this animation. I adjusted the forces, including the turbulence and the shredding option here, so that I could get the type of fire I wanted to get that detail in there. And this isn't super intuitive to understand, but they're important to know so that you can really get the look you're going for. So this is going to be covered throughout several episodes, what all of these do. And I think you'll find it really helpful, because I find fire simulations are a little bit different on each machine depending on what hardware you have. And it doesn't make sense for you to just copy and paste the settings I have because something else might work better for you, and you might want a different look than the one that I have. So my goal is for you to be self-sufficient without me by learning this really in depth. This is the initial state button we were talking about earlier. So let me see, what else did I want to talk about? I also adjusted some of the Pyro volume settings in here, mostly under the temperature, the emission. I adjusted the temperature and the offset a little bit so that I could get the look that I wanted. So that's a pretty quick overview of what I had done for this fire to create it. And we'll do a deep dive into all these settings so that you feel confident making your own fire. If you're interested in learning this, please hit like and subscribe and ring the bell so you'll be notified when the next episode comes out. All of these episodes will be a little bit shorter so that if you're looking for something in particular, it is easier to find and you don't have to sift through a 4-hour video. So this is a quick overview of what we're working on now, and hope to see you here next time on Ambient 3D Animations.